I don't even want to address that because some speakers will address that later on. What I want to say is that we are living in a system, we are living in a country, and this is first world country where it is allowed by law to be racist. It is, and not just racist, but to be elected to this parliament to be a racist, to be a lawmaker. It is allowed by law. Racist. It is, and not just racist, but to be elected to this parliament to be a racist, to be a lawmaker. It is allowed by law. But to be elected to this parliament to be a racist, to be a lawmaker. It is allowed by law. And what does it tell us about the society? The people they are addressing, the voters, they have to be racist in order to get the votes. And there is no talk about this, that in order to get the votes. And there is no talk about this, that in 2016, I used to hear, I complained to some of my white friends that why in a first world country, a very educated country like Finland, the racists are so loud and so much powerful. And my white friends would tell me that it is just a reactionary thing, that it will evaporate. And after 8 years, what we are seeing here, they are in power. The same rhetoric we are seeing and hearing about the new Nazis now as well. That it is just a reaction. It's not a reaction, and it will happen. I hope it doesn't happen. I don't want to sound pessimistic and sadist, but this is the same thing that we are here right now. But the sad thing about all this is the so-called left went a little bit back, like the way the right is so loud on it, the left went back on their policies. For example, the previous government, so-called feminist leftist government, the Prime Minister right now, I was looking at her policies. For example, the previous government, so-called feminist leftist government, the Prime Minister right now, I was looking at her story, responsible for killing of thousands of Iraqis and Afghanis. She was very proudly opening a branch of the Tony Blair Institute in Washington. That's what, for example, to us, the left stand for. I'm not talking about Westminster per se now, but like the leftist policies in general. And we saw her party basically going on the border law as well, voting in favor of it. So that says something about it. In order to be elected to this parliament, you have to be racist in the current Finland. And in order to be a progressive leftist, you have to support Tony Blair. And so it's very contradictory right now. But right now we are here. What I want, a lot of white people here, so what I want my white friends basically, that because the system is built for you, the system cares about you, this system is built for your benefits. So what I want and request from you to stand with us, speak with us, because whenever you are when you are concerned about issues, this system addresses it because it cares about you. What I want for my BIPOC friends, that enough with being apologetic. Let's not censor ourselves in order to accommodate the systems and white people's egos anymore. We have to be good and we have to accept our skins. We have to be comfortable in our skins. We have to be okay with our Islam. We have to be okay with our burqas and everything. We should not, the idea of the assimilation, the idea of integration is built on the colonial capitalist structures. We are not ready to give up on our identities. I'm not ready to give up on my self-respect, on my integrity, not an inch of it, never at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, that was incredible. Agreed with every single word you said. Couldn't have said it better. Now, remember when I said that this is an interactive demo? Yes. Now we're gonna do a bit of jumping because personally I'm cold, and then I will invite our next speaker onto the stage. While we're chanting, I want to see every single person in here jumping. Thank you. Say it loud, say it clear.
Say it loud, say it clear.
Refugees are welcome here.
Refugees are welcome here.
Say it loud, say it clear.
Say it loud, say it clear.
Refugees are welcome here.
Refugees are welcome here.
Say it loud, say it clear.
Say it loud, say it clear.
Refugees are welcome here.
Refugees are welcome here.
Thank you. Now, I just want to say, all of y'all that didn't jump, I saw y'all. I'm writing y'all names up for myself. Now, I would like to invite onto the stage Mai Kivelä, who is a member of the Finnish Parliament in the Left Alliance. Let's give her a round of applause.
Kiitos, thank you. Dear friends, we are here today to oppose the government's discriminatory and racist immigration policy. We are all here today to act for more equal and just society. The government has already introduced a whole raft of laws that undermine the position of immigrants and refugees. The government's message to those coming to Finland is that you are not welcome, and to those living in Finland, that we will make your life as difficult as possible. We have seen this all too often for over 1 year now. Throughout the time of Orpo and Purra's far-right government has been in power. It has been seen in the form of shortening permits of international protection, blocking employment opportunities, and saving on integration and interpretation. It has been seen in the case of back law, which violates human and fundamental rights by hampering the rights to seek asylum. The case of back law, which violates human and fundamental rights by hampering the rights to seek asylum. The case of back law, which violates human and fundamental rights by hampering the rights to seek asylum. I am very concerned about the direction in which Finland is heading. I want to see that after this government, we can reverse the course in a more welcoming, more open, more humane, and more just direction. But even so, we can never fully repair the damage that these decisions do to the people right now. There is no doubt that we also need immigrants as full members of our society now and in the future. Structural racism in our society has a too heavy cost. Dear friends, one of the latest whims of the right-wing government is to favor Christian refugees over Muslims. When I first heard about the Finns party's aim to block the admission of quota refugees from Muslim countries, I was shocked. This couldn't be possible in Finland, I thought, but apparently it can. According to the media reports, the Minister of the Interior has so that quota refugees would no longer be taken from countries such as Afghanistan, but from Christian countries instead. Only because these people are Muslim. For example, families and women from Afghanistan, country where the ruling Taliban is extremely hostile to women. For 3 years, Afghan women and girls have been oppressed on an unprecedented scale. Their fundamental rights have been curtailed by more than 20 provisions, which will undoubtedly have long-lasting effects for generations. Researchers have described the situation as gender apartheid. And it's not just about Afghanistan, of course. Finland has accepted quota refugees regardless of their religion, but focusing on their true need for asylum. This policy is extremely discriminatory, repugnant and intimidating. Finland is on a very dangerous road if the government accepts this. Dear friends, the global need for resettlement has increased to 2.4 million people. Dear friends, the global need for resettlement has increased to 2.4 million people. Dear friends, the global need for resettlement has increased to 2.4 million people. Last year the number was 1,050. I am not surprised that the minister responsible has not dared to open her plans in public. After all, the plan is completely dared to open her plans in public. After all, the plan is completely to open her plans in public. After all, the plan is completely the allocation of refugee quota must be based on the real need for protection, not on racist grounds. But this is not enough to bury it. We demand an explanation from the minister. We demand an explanation from the whole government. How can such planning even be allowed to get that far within this government? Dear friends, Finland can and must full of people who are in an extremely difficult and dangerous situation. Can and must full of people who are in an extremely difficult and dangerous situation. Full of people who are in an extremely difficult and dangerous situation. Quota. Reception of quota refugees is an effective and managed way to help the most vulnerable people, as their protection and conditions of reception and managed way to help the most vulnerable people, as their protection and conditions of reception and vulnerable people, as their protection and conditions of reception and increase to a refugee quota. But dear friends, the integration of immigrants as a fully fledged members of society is also crucial to every one of us and to the future of welfare state. There is no society that can develop and prosper without immigrants. Investing in non-discrimination is about solidarity, morality and humanity, but it's also about the Finnish society, its economy and demography. Those countries that welcome immigrants help them find employment, make it possible for people to use their skills and give. Those countries that welcome immigrants help them find employment, make it possible for people to use their skills and find employment, make it possible for people to use their skills and give, and the number is growing, of course. Finland is in a situation where employment growth in recent years, of course. Finland is in a situation where employment growth in recent years are not an expense or a burden, but a source of ideas, experience, human needs, skills, companion, and so on. Dear friends, it is important to know and see that we are not alone today. We are not alone in standing up against discrimination, against racism and outright, and we are not alone in standing up against discrimination, against racism and outright policies. There are many of us showing solidarity strength in numbers, there's strength in us, and you all are doing your part by showing that strength here today. We say no to racism, and we say yes to equality and solidarity. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, seeing these Palestine flags reminded me of these countries that are legalizing racism and somehow calling themselves a full-fledged democracies. Throw back to the Jim Crow era in America, the full-on apartheid in Palestine right now, the whole program Finland is trying to do right now. I'm not surprised because, well, if you've been living in Finland as a person who has an immigrant background or is visibly Muslim or is any type of these, a part of like any type of these minorities that are not welcome, what's happening right now is not coming to you as a surprise. At least to me, it's not coming as a surprise. I've been seeing this ever since I was a kid. Now, Finland is quite literally creating problems for itself. And when I say problems, I mean Finland partaking in the displacement of millions of people, which is quite literally tied to its international actions and arms trade policies. Finland holds arms trade agreements with various countries, including Israel, raising questions about how it directly supports the genocide going on, which has already displaced insane amounts of people. Now, is this or is this not Finland quite literally creating the problem for itself by displacing these people and partaking in the displacement process? A full-on logical contradiction. On one hand, Finland is engaging in activities that sustain the conflict and the genocide while not restricting the refugee intake, specifically from Muslim countries. And I thought you had to be special kind of smart to get into this building and work there. Obviously, I was in the wrong. Now I would like to introduce Eugene Ufoka, who is the chairperson of African Anti-Racism Society in Finland and a community organizer, social and civil justice activist. Thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting me here to come. I think from what you were saying that you actually were thinking that those who are working in this building, they have to be very smart. I have to say that the racist people are smart. They are not stupid. They are very smart in what they do, they plan, they organize, and they execute the action. So we should never confuse that for anything else. Everything that is done by these people is well calculated. So thank you everyone who is here today, coming out to show solidarity for a cause that may not be directly affecting to you is a very important thing. And I always have to say this all the time, that we always have to take the opportunity to step in to do the necessary, what is needed for the common cause of the common society, because we all have a collective responsibility. Even if it's not about me or you, but if it's about the community, we all have to be involved. It is something that it's not only a moral obligation, it's a collective duty that we have as human beings. Because refugee rights, immigrant rights are human rights. And we are here today because of human rights. We are here today because of the rights of people who are seeking international protection. And the Finnish government is trying to apply a very, very racist policy towards giving people help. So it is completely unacceptable. We cannot stay in Finland and approve a government and accept a government that is choosing to select people to come to Finland based on how they worship or how they look or where they are coming from. The basis of refugee status should be granted on people based on the need, not on anything else. So we are here because of that. Let's not get this mixed. We are here because of the very basic right that every person, in fact, anybody can be a refugee. Tomorrow we can become refugees. Tomorrow we can become, those who are refugees today, they never thought that they would be refugees yesterday or last year or 10 years ago. So this is a very humane thing. And you cannot apply racist policy on basic human rights of people. It cannot be done, and it should not be done in Finland. And that is why we have a collective duty to resist this government with this kind of policies. We can't be silent, because these people are well organized and they are plotting to do this kind of things. So every time, I will borrow from Martin Luther King Jr., when injustice becomes a law anytime, resistance becomes the only responsibility for the civilians. So right now, the only thing we can do is to resist. And there are many ways to resist policies and governments like this. One of them is to vote and organize and take part in elections that are coming. We have to make sure that we remove these people from this building. That is one of the most effective ways that we can resist and fight oppression. Because if you are not on the table, you'll be on the menu. So we have to be on the table by going out, organizing, and being part of election. It is very important that we know the parties to vote for. We know the politicians and the people who produce policies that is for equality, that is for equity, and that is for human rights in Finland. We shouldn't get these things confused, because if we come out here, we talk and we don't take part in these things, then we are actually doing a disfavor to ourselves. So organizing and organizing and organizing is what we have to do to resist this kind of racist policy that Finland, a very nice country, a very beautiful country that is based on justice, equality, and freedom, we're having a government that is trying to be giving people refugee status based on how they worship. That is absolutely not acceptable, and we shall not accept. And we are going to resist and resist, because it is the basic right for anybody to seek asylum and be given a refugee status based on their needs, not because of where they come from or how they look or how they worship. So we say no to this kind of policies, and when injustices have not become law, we have to resist. So I will end up with this quote from Martin Luther King. When injustice becomes a law, resistance becomes a duty. So it's cool. Let's join and say this together. Maybe there are some people in this building that can hear us outside. When injustice becomes a law, resistance becomes a duty. So let's do it again one more time. So when I say when injustice becomes a law, you said resistance becomes a duty. Yes. When injustice becomes a law,
resistance becomes a duty.
One more time. When injustice becomes a law,
resistance becomes a duty.
I want them to hear us. From those who are inside, they should hear us. When injustice has become the law in Finland,
resistance becomes a duty.
When injustice becomes a law,
resistance becomes a duty.
Thank you for coming here and being part of this resistance. Thank you.
Thank you. Eugene, you're too kind. I know for a fact that these people can make a lot more noise than that. So, again, what did the chant start with? When thank you. When injustice becomes the law,
resistance becomes a duty.
When injustice becomes the law,
resistance becomes a duty.
I'm not sure of the working hours, but if someone's working in there, for a fact they didn't hear you. When injustice becomes the law,
resistance becomes a duty.
When injustice becomes the law,
resistance becomes a duty.
Thank you guys for not embarrassing me. Thank you. Now I would like to introduce Heta Uhtio. They are the chairperson of Etelä-Suomen Vasemmistonuoret, a politician, a human rights activist, and advocate for workers' rights. Give it up.
Thank you. I'll hold my speech today in Finnish. I hope you don't mind that. They don't mind. Okay, that's good. Let me just pull up my notes. Hyvät ystävät, mä oon tosiaan Heta Uhtio, Etelä-Suomen vasemmistonuorten puheenjohtaja. Ja meillä on ollut kunnia olla mukana järjestämässä tätä mielenosoitusta. Mä kiitän kaikkia teitä paikalla olevia tämän asian puolesta, koska Suomen hallitus on antanut meille jälleen syyn pettyä heidän toimintaan, ja siksi me joudutaan olemaan täällä tänään. Hallitus on epäoikeudenmukaisesti heikentänyt maahanmuuttajien asemaa useaan otteeseen vaan lyhyen ajan sisällä. Turvapaikanhakijoiden arvottaminen heidän syntypaikan, uskonnon tai äidinkielen mukaan on äärimmäisen eriarvoistavaa ja rasistista. Muistakaamme, että turvapaikanhakijat ovat kaikista haavoittuvimmassa asemassa olevia henkilöitä, ja he on ihmisiä, jotka tarvitsee apua. He ei ole lähtenyt kotoaan hakemaan turvapaikkaa huvin vuoksi, eikä uuden elämän rakentaminen uudessa tuntemattomassa maassa ole ikinä helppoa. Me tiedostetaan, että näillä ihmisillä ei ole muuta vaihtoehtoa ja he ansaitsevat mahdollisuuden hyvään elämään. Suomi on politiikallaan osallistunut siihen, että yhä useampi ihminen tarvitsee turvapaikkaa. Esimerkiksi ilmastokriisin kiihdyttäminen ja asekauppa Israelin kanssa on näitä toimia. Me ei voida meidän politiikalla aiheuttaa ihmisille sellaista oloa heidän kotimaassa, että he joutuvat pakenemaan ja sen jälkeen kieltää heitä tulemasta tänne. Lukuisia kertoja me ollaan saatu lukea uutisista, kuinka Suomeen on tullut nuoria ihmisiä pakon edessä. He on opetellut kielen, valmistuneet kouluista ja sen jälkeen heille kerrotaan, että he ei saa jäädä tänne. Tämä on äärimmäisen typerää politiikkaa sekä taloudellisesti että moraalisesti. Ja nuorisojärjestönä meille nuorten asiat on tietenkin todella tärkeitä. Maahanmuuttaneet nuoret on todella haavoittuvassa asemassa, mutta kun heille annetaan mahdollisuus onnistua, niin ne rikastuttaa meidän maata niin kulttuurisesti kuin taloudellisesti. Nuorissa on tulevaisuus, sanotaan. Me halutaan muistuttaa, että tämä ei voi tarkoittaa vain kristittyjä, valkoisia suomalaisia nuoria, vaan ihan kaikkia. Suomen maahanmuuttopolitiikka on monella tasolla todella huonossa jamassa. Emme ole houkutteleva paikka valmiille osaajille, eikä me ole turvallinen paikka rakentaa koti niin sitä tarvitseville. Me seisotaan täällä solidaarisuudessa ja osoitamme, että pääministeri Purran, siis Orpon, tulisi johtaa hallitusta ja lopettaa tällainen sekoilu. Kiitos.
Kiitos. Ihan älyttömän hyvä puhe. Are you guys cold? Whoever said joo tuolta kaukaa, kiitos tosi paljon sulle. Sä vastasit tosi kovaa ja reippaaseen ääneen. Onks teillä kylmä? Kuka nyt huutaa? Ei. Mitä tää on? Kiusaamista. Kiusaamista. Ruvetaan vähän lämmittelee, hei. X-hyppyjä nyt samalla kun me chantätään. Eka chantti menee näin. What do we want? Migrant rights. Te sanotte migrant rights. Sitten mä sanon uudestaan, että when do we want it? Now! Aivan oikein. Noniin. X-hyppyjä samalla. What do we want? When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Migrant rights!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Migrant rights!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Migrant rights!
When do we want it?
Now!
Yes. Mahtavaa. Toistuvasti samat tyypit täällä jo. I see you guys. Now, I would like to say a few words because I already have not said enough. And I would like to talk about Finland and its history with Muslim people and Islam. Because for some reason, in Finland, people are acting like Islam and Muslim people are a brand new thing that just a few decades ago came to Finland. When in reality, the earliest confirmed records of Muslim people residing is what is known right now as in Finland. They all the way back to the time before Finland's independence, sometime in the 19th century, a time when Finland was still part of the Russian Empire. So for as long as Finland has existed as an independent state, Muslim people have lived here. Considering this, it's extremely baffling how Islam and Muslim people are perceived as a non-Finnish religion and a threat to the Finnish identity. When, for a fact, Muslim people in Finland actually predate the existence of Finland as an independent state. Now, for some reason, you don't hear about this when you read the news. You're bombarded with hostile and prejudice-filled articles of how us and other refugees are about to come and steal your jobs, women, countries, whatever is appropriate at that moment. I don't know, steal the grass. Now, yesterday I read about a survey that had been conducted within the EU. Unfortunately, I was not surprised when I saw the results. How could I? At the end of the day, Finland is all I've known, and Finland has made it clear to me that it does not want me. According to this survey, in Finland, Muslim respondents reported substantial experiences of discrimination. According to the survey, 60% of the people had experienced discrimination within the past year, and 64% within the past 5 years. Now, this level of discrimination is high compared to, for example, Sweden, Spain, and Italy. And for some reason, we're extremely concerned about me ollaan menossa Ruotsin tielle. I think our priorities are a bit mixed. Now, as a dark-skinned Muslim woman living in Finland, I live daily in an environment that threatens the safety of every part of my identity. Finland is one of the EU's most dangerous countries for women, one of the most discriminatory towards people of color, and according to the latest research, ranks within the top 3 EU countries for discrimination experienced by Muslims. So perhaps this could be called a full house of sorts when it comes to me, but I don't play card games, so I'm not actually sure of the rules. Finland is not a bad country. Finnish people are not bad people. The government is extremely messed up right now, and y'all need to work on it. Thank you. Now I'm handing mic off to Dietmar.
Yes. Thank you very much. And just like few words, that the statistics that we just heard is a proof that this government is like pushing more and more towards a more racist society. But we will send a reminder for the government that this is not the last protest. A reminder that this government will not scare us. We will not give up. We together will continue to show up, and as long as immigrants' rights, minority rights, and human rights are under attack, we will stand together for a fair and equal Finland for all. Thank you.
Now, before we finish off, I told y'all, I remember each one of y'all that didn't jump and move with me. Let's do it now and do a few more chants before we wrap this up. Are you guys ready?
Yep.
What do we want?
Migrant rights.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Migrant rights.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Migrant rights.
When do we want it?
Now.
Open doors. Open doors, open borders. Refugees are more than welcome.
Refugees are more than welcome.
Open doors, open borders.
Open doors, open borders.
Refugees are more than welcome.
Refugees are more than welcome.
Mitä me halutaan? Ihmisoikeuksia.
Ihmisoikeuksia.
Milloin me halutaan?
Nyt.
Mitä me halutaan?
Ihmisoikeuksia.
Milloin me halutaan?
Nyt.
Mitä me halutaan?
Ihmisoikeuksia.
Milloin me halutaan?
Nyt. Ihmisoikeuksia.
Milloin me halutaan?
Nyt.
Mitä me halutaan?
Ihmisoikeuksia.
Milloin me halutaan?
Nyt.
Our human rights.
Migrant rights are human rights.
Migrant rights are human rights.
Migrant rights are human rights.
Are human rights.
Migrant rights are human rights.
Migrant rights are human rights.
Migrant rights are human rights. Here.
Thank you guys. Thank you for coming, thank you for being here, and thank you for listening to us. Special thanks to our speakers. Special thanks to all y'all that are standing in the cold. Zero thanks to you guys. Thank you. Naam.
3.11.
Ai niin jo, hei! 3.11.